Welcome to The Difference. Today, Anthony and I are spending time talking about one of our favorite subjects, imagination. That's what makes us different. Stay tuned.
You are listening to The Difference, a presentation from The Hour, a 54-year ministry. Steve, first we started on radio, then went to television, then we went streaming online. So at Our Stream, you can watch our programming from all those years. So it's at thehour.org. And now, here we are. So Steve, on the tease, you said Anthony and I are going to talk about one of our favorite subjects. And you had asked me to kind of sort of be the guest today. So I thought you were going to say one of our favorite subjects, Anthony. But no, it was imagination. But I'll take that. That's
your
better.
Second favorite subject behind imagination.
Exactly.
So, when we talk about difference, Anthony, there's a lot of things. We talk about people who are different, people like Jim Wild, whose life is so different and he handled it differently than other people.
What a great series of episodes.
It was.
If people haven't heard that, you need to go back and listen to those. We got some good stuff in there.
Exactly. And I've been talking to him. He was so appreciative of us telling the story. He said, I may have another chapter in me. I said, well, you're the only one that's ever gotten 3 episodes.
We'll bring it back sometime.
We will bring it back. In our work together, one of the reasons that we bonded is because you and I both are dreamers. We love art. We love creativity. And the longer I live, the more I understand that that's an elemental piece of somebody being able to be different.
It is. You have to allow yourself to think differently, and that's creative thinking, because it's easy to stay in the norm. We did the documentary on Walter Anderson and Eudora Welty, and these are people who thought differently, and they said, I can live this life, do these creative things, and just fashion their life in a certain way. And you can't do that without a little bit of creative thinking. It requires permission that you give yourself.
But it's also, one of the things as an artist, perspective means everything. And one of the things that you're so gifted at is how you look at things. I can remember when we were going through the merger process and Jack Laughlin was trying to train us all to lead that process. He introduced me to a word called paradigm. Not 2 dimes, but the whole idea of how you look at things matters. And every culture, every person has a paradigm. And that paradigm influences the reality you perceive. And one of the things that I've come to understand is one of the gifts God brings us. The prophets, Jesus himself he was able to look at things differently and see things differently. And part of that comes from being able to take your imagination and understand that in that imagination you can take a couple steps in one way or another, and all of a sudden things look different.
Well, you think about Jesus coming and was the son of a carpenter. He wasn't the son of a tax collector. I mean, He was in an environment where you take these materials and you make something out of it. And then the ultimate heavenly Father with creating everything, creating the universe and the things in it, that's pretty creative too. So I think he had a good support system. In my life, my father was a football coach and an outdoorsman, hunter, fisherman, that sort of thing. And I did a lot of that in my childhood. I played sports for a while, but that just wasn't in me. I've got to go attack. I got to go get them. Now I have plenty of road rage now, so maybe I could be a linebacker now or a lineman now. But I was drawn to, I created a little magazine and had subscribers, and I was singing in a gospel quartet and playing music instruments, learning how to, teaching myself how to play instruments. My parents kind of didn't know what to do with that. So their paradigm, my mom played piano, so she got the music part, but she sees me doing this and says, well, maybe I can find him someone to teach art lessons. I was 9 years old. I'm just going into my life here. But I was 9 years old, and we were on the coast, and she found an art teacher that was teaching lessons on Saturday mornings. Carl Baldenhofer was his name. Carl Baldenhofer. And in the class were probably 15 little old ladies and 9-year-old Anthony. And but
That explains a lot.
but he took me into the class, and those little ladies were so sweet to me. So I had my first exhibition when I was 9. You would pay $5 a week, and he would provide you a canvas and squirt out paint on your tray for you, and you had to buy a brush. And we would paint, and he would come along, and he would make a straight line for you or something. But those were the first paintings, and my mom didn't know how to teach me art. She loved to color and but she didn't know how to teach art. But she saw value in, this is what he's interested in. I'm going to make a way for him to do that. We had no money. We shrimped in the summers to get extra money. I mean, we worked hard, but they found ways. One year I wanted to go to the Gospel Singers of America School of Gospel Music camp. My mom worked as in the kitchen for those 2 weeks so that I had a scholarship to go to the camp. So we both went down there. And I'll just never forget that kind of sacrificing. My dad trying to figure out what to do with this artistic side. So I didn't want to play in the games, so I videotaped his games for him. And I didn't want to be, on the team, so he got me to paint slogans in the field house, and we were the Blue Devils, so paint home of the Blue Devils on a sign in the front. So he found ways to get me involved, and I looked for ways to be involved where I could be a part of it, but in my way. So sometimes you have to create your own paradigm. And those around you, maybe they give you permission. They don't know how to do it for you. So we can't blame, well, my dad didn't know, he didn't support me, or this,
Right.
You can't blame all of that. Sometimes they'll give you permission to create your own paradigm if you really want it, but it requires work on your part. You've got to follow through, and the more successful and the more hardworking and the more disciplined you are, the more they trust, okay, I'll keep supporting him in that or her in that. Or whatever.
And I think that's one of the elements of creativity that people kind of breeze by. They think of it as so ethereal, but creativity.
What was that word?
Ethereal. Look it up. Thesaurus, whatever. the sense that it's all this kind of fluff and pie in the sky, when real creativity always finds kinetic expression. It always takes form. I mean, it's like in God's creation, He spoke, but and then it was. There was this material manifestation of the imagination. And the whole idea, you love Disney. The great thing about Walt Disney was there weren't just ideas. Right. You can drive there and touch them.
Yes.
You can ride them and feel them.
Right.
And so the wonder of imagination, this whole idea of images, the word becoming flesh, the idea of becoming flesh, is so much a part of God's creative design of everything.
It really is, and we're certainly not equating Disney with God or religious things, but there is a spirituality to creation of any kind.
Exactly.
It's taking and creating something, and I mean, in the beginning, the first word of Scripture is about creation, and Disney just does it so well in creating environments and immersive worlds. We are sitting in a room at the Institute for Southern Storytelling at Mississippi College, and 2 years ago, we basically spoke this into existence. So we had done some films with Robert St. John and my wife Amy, my family, Thaxton Studios, but we wanted to be connected with this institution that I love so much, Mississippi College, and we just kind of spoke it.
It was an empty, ugly, dirty room.
It was.
I mean,
you remember. You were here.
I remember you showing it to me the first time, and I was like,
You're going
You're
in.
good, but this is less than nothing.
Well, but that's that's the beautiful thing, because we having done devotional books, both of us and all, we sometimes think in those terms, and I'm immediately thinking, well, that's like God seeing something beautiful in this void, in this blank piece of paper, in this mess of material that is our life, and He sees what it can be, and that's what delights me. I had a friend one time, he said, it took me a while to understand you, because it was off putting sometimes, because it was like you were showing your art, or you were showing this, and it was like you were bragging, and I didn't like you for a long time. But then I realized it wasn't that. You were celebrating, almost like, look at what happened. Look at this.
This is good.
He saw it and saw that it was good. And there are varying degrees of stuff and creativity and achievement in our lives. But when you see, oh my gosh, that turned out halfway decent, or painting with my children when they were young, and they're painting this mountain, and wait, that looks great. Or writing a story of Nico or Dusk or whatever. My children then they achieve something and they accomplish something, and we see that it was good. And
Exactly.
it may not be the penultimate where you're trying to get. Disney said one time, we land so high because we aim even higher, and we never achieve what we want. We try to do these wonderful, amazing things, and we always fall short of it. But because we aim so high, we still ended up higher than most everybody else, because we aim so high. And I think, as there was the book, the Big Hairy Audacious Goals,
Right.
BHAGs. We are, I think, supposed to say, Michelangelo saying, I can paint that ceiling and do a pretty
Right.
good job on it, even though it's going to take me 4 years, and I'm going to get aggravated and cranky, and why do you bring fools to judge my work, and all of this. But yes, I can do that. And okay, I guess so. And you just want some decorations, I'm going to give you something that is considered the greatest masterpiece of all time. It's being audacious. It's because when you take a blank piece of paper and you say, let's create something out of this piece of thin tree, that's audacious. I can be a co-creator in something. And that's how I view it. So that friend who talking about seeing it as bragging or something, it really isn't. When I show somebody something, hey, look at this, I'm standing back and being tickled of, look what I got to participate in.
Right.
And it's not, because God gave me a toolbox. And if I've done anything, I believe I keep a lot of the tools from getting rusty. Somebody said, how can you do all this? Well, I work. At night, we'll be watching TV, but I'm working on something, or I'm thinking of something.
You're on
or I'm drawing.
vacation painting.
I'm painting on the
scapes
beach.
of the beach.
Exactly. And it's not that, some of that's ADHD, I think, and can't sit still, but it's always trying to better and trying to do something. And then you look back and you say, wow, look at this body of work, but you've got this box of tools. And if I left that hammer in the tool chest and never use that hammer, that's going to get rusty and eventually unusable. And
not only that, your muscle memory and your use of it, you can't use it as skillfully.
And I want to say this to everyone. You have tools in your toolbox that maybe you don't even realize you have. And, Steve, when we don't try things, we don't know that the pair of pliers, wait, I could have been using that all along.
Exactly.
And having those tools, and I wanted to play piano, so I learned how to chord and 3 chords in a cloud of dust, and it sounded halfway decent, so I never learned how to play by notes, but I can sit down and play Amazing Grace in the key of G or C, or I learned enough of the structure and the number system and all because I wanted to. And I would stay at home from football games and practice piano or whatever. And it just takes that discipline. I wanted to paint. You learn to paint by painting. You're not
Exactly.
born being able to paint. You're born with a little bit of talent, but you develop that and you grow and grow. Your communication skills as a pastor. If you don't preach for a few years and then you step back into it, it's a different experience
It is a
than if you're
different
doing
experience.
that week after week. Counseling, no matter what it is, but you have tools in your toolbox, and I encourage you to find, maybe you make a great lasagna. Create a lasagna ministry where people are who are
Exactly.
hurting or in loss or mourning. Make a great lasagna and take
And
it
I'm a
to 'em.
great lasagna eater,
That's
so
that's
just
right.
I'll test
That's
it
your
out.
spiritual gift.
Exactly.
Is
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about one of my favorite books, On the Anvil. It was redone and named, and I can't remember the new name that Max Lucado did. And he talked about God and the creation as a toolbox.
oh really?
And he said, you're in one of three piles.
I
He
was just
said,
stealing from Max without
you,
knowing
you
it.
didn't even know it. He said, we're either on the garbage heap broken, we're in the toolbox being prepared, or we're in the hand of God being used.
Nice.
And that whole thing of when we talk about being created in the image of God, we were made to be used. We were made to use the gifts and the tools we have.
Right.
And if not, we're in this broken state of unuse. I think so many people who battle with their life are trapped in a place where they don't feel useful.
Right.
They don't feel needed. They don't feel like their life is becoming something. And part of the creativity is kind of finding our way into God's hand and then being what we were made to be. And you do that 24/7. You're just so creative in so many ways.
Well, and I try to do too much, and that creates its own problems. But at the same time, I would rather die with a lot of things unfinished, but I've started and I've tried and I've experienced stepping out of the boat and trying to walk on water to Jesus, and it never works right and never is exactly like you want it to be. But you do get these experiences, and I wanted to create a themed environment, immersive experience here. So we created a time machine experience about
Yeah.
the Mississippi College bicentennial. People are loving it, and it's this. And I step back and I'm like, "Are you
Walt would be
kidding?"
so proud the first time I sat down and I felt the fan come on. I was just like, "Oh, stop! This is too cool." It
It,
was just that imagination.
but why can't we do that on a college campus? We
Right.
don't have to go to Disney for everything, or why can't we? So I think it's that part of possibility thinking. But again, that broken heap. If you look at all the things behind me here that we crafted this time machine out of, this steampunk kind of thing, a lot of it is
Was
broken materials.
garbage. Exactly.
No, not useful for anything. And I think I take hope in that when I'm at my broken most, and I'm thinking, how can I get up? What can I do? How can I, or financial trouble or concerns or health issues. And then I think, well, wait a minute. I took all those broken things and made something cool out of it. God does that every day in our life, but we
Exactly.
just have to kind of allow ourselves to have some possibility thinking. And I'm not saying that everyone out here can be this great artist or whatever, but I do contend that God has equipped every one of us with tools.
Yeah.
Every one of it. And some of us, we have family members maybe with Down syndrome or something. They have tools of personality and
Well, if you've never been to Mustard Seed and seen their Christmas ornaments and the
exactly.
creations that they
Exactly.
do there,
So any one of us, no matter what our situation, if you're an invalid in the bed, there are things that you can pray for people. You can call or send wishes, or there are things that we can do. Maybe you can write, and you write about your experience. There are a lot of things that we think, well, this is hopeless, and there's no way to be creative in this environment. There's always a way, and I love that line from Jurassic Park: "Nature finds a way."
Exactly.
God has put that in us to be creative, and you see somebody who is a leather worker or a woodworker. I've never wanted to do that kind of stuff. I wanted to do miniatures. My son is doing 3D printing, and we're doing a miniature of the 1911 Mississippi College campus for an exhibition that we're doing. And we're doing black light, and we're like, well, what if we have a projector and we're spotlighting and telling a story and taking it from this sedentary thing, this stationary thing, and making it come alive and dynamic? How many things in our lives, if we just turned over and thought possibility of, I don't have to stay in this mire. I'm frustrated by all the things in the world and the people on the left and the people on the right and all the everything going on in the country, and everybody's just frazzled. Okay? Why don't we think beyond that? And how can I be positive and productive in this environment? Tune off some of that. And that's the thing. If I'm drawing, I tune out a bunch of stuff.
Well, and the thing is as I was thinking about this, for me, the evil side of creativity, I think about the Tower of Babel and the whole sense of you can create a lot of things, but the question is, what are you creating it for?
Right.
We can build these self-centered towers to the heavens to try to be our own God and rule our own world. And what we end up with is all this division and schism and fighting and nothing. And then what do you have left but a mess?
Right.
And a lot of times our culture builds those towers, and you love to see people who come into the midst of that and bring their gifts and in quiet, thoughtful, and sometimes loud, beautiful ways say, wait, the world doesn't have to look like that.
Right.
It can look differently. You think about God. What if Genesis just said, God had this great idea to make something. Wish he would have.
Yeah. It did require action.
It was every day. He went to work. It was such hard work that even God had to say, that was work.
Right.
I'm going to rest.
Right. Right.
And then God says to us, hey, that's how I created life, is live into it, create, do your thing, find your place, be your person, and then watch what comes out of it.
Well, Steve, my heart was broken last night. My wife and I were looking for something to rest and unwind, and a lot of times I'll watch TV or a movie or something, and that helps me unwind. But I'm thinking about filmmaking, and I'm thinking about all this stuff. But we watched a documentary last night, and Amy said, "You want to watch this?" And we just turned it on, not knowing what to expect. And it's a program called The Perfect Neighbor, and it's a documentary comprised mostly of camera footage, body camera footage from police officers. There's a white woman who lived in this area, and across the street, it's kids of every ethnicity, but there's kind of an open lot beside her house, and they call her the Karen because she keeps calling the police over a 2-year period, complaining that the kids are too loud. And even the police officers are saying, ma'am, at least they're out here playing. They're not on TikTok. They're not robbing something. They're out here playing football. Celebrate that. But she would keep calling and complaining and keep calling, and then got more and more aggressive with these children in the neighborhood. And then, of course, the children are getting more and more frustrated at her and yelling things at her. Well, she takes something. Well, it ends in tragedy. I won't ruin it in case someone wants to watch it. The Perfect Neighbor. But what happens, it ends in an act of gun violence, and it's just this tragedy all the way around. And I said to Amy, I even paused it, and I said, how different would that have been had this lady had thought, I'm going to bake some cookies, and invite these kids to come and have cookies, and then befriended them. And what a different environment on this whole block, that where it ended in this tragic thing all the way around. It could have been this beautiful thing, and she could have become a grandmother type of figure and had this rich, full life just by thinking a little differently and saying, you know what? Instead of being at odds with them and complaining about the noise, why don't I celebrate that? Why don't I join in the fun?
Right.
That requires a paradigm shift in thinking, and maybe being creative in your thinking. And I can cook something, or I can figure a creative way to diffuse this. When I taught junior high school, I diffused so much with humor, and I didn't always get that right. Humor's a tricky thing, but I could diffuse a lot of things and diffuse a lot of bullying situations that I saw happening and things. And had this woman done this, all of these lives would have been so different.
The kingdom doesn't come unless we live into it. Community is not developed unless we create it.
Right.
And I think part of why we do this, part of why we want to make a difference, is that we truly believe that the creative capacity that God gave us gives us the capacity in His Spirit to recreate this world we live in. And we circle back to the very first thing. It's how we see things. Instead of seeing ourselves afflicted by the people around us, we ask ourselves the question, what can I do to create the place I want to live in?
I used to write a letter to all of my students when I taught, and one year I had 300 students that year because they changed in the middle of the semester. I was writing, but it was important to me, so I printed out something that I wrote to all of them, and then I would write something personal to each of them. And I have kids come up to me who are grown adults now, and they say, I still have that note. I have it on my mirror. I mean, it just touches me every time. Just a little effort sometimes can be so powerful. But I wrote to each of them that strive to be a positive part in a very negative world. You can change the world, maybe not the entire world, but you can change your world, and that's the only thing that has ever changed the world anyway. And I think God gives, I think if you are really serious, I think God puts that desire in each of us.
Yes.
We have the desire to be a part of something and do something. And circling back, sometimes we just have to give ourselves permission. I'm going to make cookies rather than making trouble.
There you go.
I'm going to make art rather than making myself slothful. I'm going to do something today, and I'm going to be a part of something interesting rather than being something negative. And may that be all of our prayer.
And I think that circles back as we close out. You know, the energy that comes with creation is the same energy God experienced in the beginning. When we really use our creativity to bring that to the world, it is good.
It is good.
Well, we thank y'all for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in for our next episode. And as always, hey, live loved.
You've been listening to The Difference, a presentation of The Hour. The Difference is made in conjunction with and partnership with the Institute for Southern Storytelling at Mississippi College. To find out more about the Institute and ways that we are partnering and mentoring young lives through storytelling, filmmaking, and more, visit us at southernstorytelling.mc.edu. And for more resources from The Hour and from The Difference, check us out at our Hour Stream platform with the streaming content at thehour.org. I'm Anthony Thaxton. Thanks for joining us.